Did Dave Ramsey mislead his listeners by promoting a now defunct timeshare exit company? Well, a $150 million lawsuit says he did. Let's talk about it right after this. Hello and welcome to Destination Timeshare. I'm Jeremy, on the channel dedicated to everything about timeshares. I want to start out this video today though, giving just a quick disclaimer that the information I'm providing in here is going to be mostly kind of my opinion, my thoughts on this lawsuit, as well as some information I've gleaned from all 48 pages of the lawsuit. Now don't worry, I didn't actually print all 48 pages. The rest of these are blank. I just printed page 1 just for show. But I did read through all 48 pages on the digital copy. So it can be information I've gleaned from the lawsuit, kind of a little bit of my opinion and thoughts, as well as some specific statements made by people involved. So my commentary is just that, and it should not be construed as legal advice or analysis. First up, we have Timeshare Exit Team, also known as Reed, Hine and Associates. So anytime through this video that you hear me refer to Timeshare Exit Team or Reed, Hine, well, consider them just one and the same. What was Timeshare Exit Team? Well, they started up in 2012 to try and provide timeshare exit services for people who felt that they were locked in or stuck with their timeshare. Let's hear a little bit of a clip from one of the owners, Brandon Reed, in a promotional video about what his company did for their clients.
So we are a consumer protection firm that again specializes in getting people out of their timeshare contracts. So it doesn't matter what your situation is, what type of timeshare you have, whether it's mortgaged or it's paid in full and you're just paying rising maintenance fees. Whatever your situation is, definitely give our office a call, check out our website at timeshareexitteam.com and just schedule an appointment with us.
So during that video, you will notice that they did consider themselves kind of a consumer advocacy or protection company. Now, after they had been in business for about 7 or 8 years, they were actually sued by the Attorney General of the state of Washington, and later on actually settled that lawsuit for $2.61 million, as well as a consent decree. And ultimately, they ended up going out of business not long after. And now next up, who is Dave Ramsey? Well, he's actually the central part of this lawsuit. He's that financial guru. Maybe you've seen him on YouTube. Maybe you've heard him on the radio. Provides financial coaching and advice. And between 2015 and 2021, he actually provided an endorsement for Timeshare Exit Team. Let's listen to a little bit of one of his ad reads, just so you can kind of get a bit of an idea of what his pitch for Timeshare Exit Team was like.
I'll admit it, at first I was reluctant to partner with a company involved in the timeshare exit space. You have to be very careful about who you partner with. There are many third-party exit companies that simply want your hard-earned money and will skip out the second they get it. These scammers employ illegitimate tactics that in the end still leave you owning and financially responsible for your unwanted timeshare.
Okay, I gotta stop it actually right here in the middle, because I want to point out that pretty much everything he has said up to this point is something that Timeshare Exit Team was actually accused of doing during their years in business. So just want to mention that. Let's jump back in now and see what else he has to say.
So, what do? Who can you trust to help you get out of a timeshare? Well, my friends at Timeshare Exit Team, that's who.
Now coming to that, also let it be known that Dave Ramsey had a very big disdain for the timeshare industry kind of as a whole. All of the timeshare developers, he called them scammy and scummy. He really hates, he despises the timeshare industry. He even called it the last legal fraud in America. So that was his opinion, and he decided to endorse Timeshare Exit Team as a means, apparently, to help people get out of their timeshares. So before we move on here, I'd like to ask right now, if you're liking this video, or if you like these types of videos, or you like timeshare, well, please be sure to give this video a thumbs up. It really does help out these videos. I'd appreciate it, and thank you very much. So now let's get into a little bit more details of this lawsuit. Who are the defendants? Well, of course, we have Mr. Dave Ramsey. We also have the Lampo Group, and the Lampo Group is essentially Dave Ramsey's company. And then we have Happy Hour Media. Happy Hour Media was the company that was set up by Reed Hine, by Timeshare Exit Team, kind of to facilitate their marketing and advertising. So they worked through Happy Hour Media to essentially work the endorsement with Dave Ramsey and the Lampo Group. Now for the plaintiffs, there's actually 17 of them in this lawsuit, but in fact, it looks like there's actually only maybe 13 actual transactions with Timeshare Exit Team, because it looks like a number of them were actually couples or co-ownerships. So when I went through all of the details of the different plaintiffs in this case, in total, they paid about $115,000 to Reed Hine for timeshare exit services, they say, based on Dave Ramsey's endorsement. Those fees actually ranged, and those individual fees, from $4,500 to over $40,000. And they claim that between 2012 and 2021, that Reed Hine charged customers between $4,000 and $72,000, and in total collected about $200 million in fees. So now we're kind of getting more into, I guess, the allegations of the case. Now remember, these are just allegations. They have not yet been proven in court. So keep that in mind. Everybody has their day in court. So first up here, from 2015 to 2021, Reed Hine paid Dave Ramsey and the Lampo Group to make false claims and instruct Ramsey's faithful listeners to hire Reed Hine. By 2021, Ramsey's promotions drove Reed Hine's revenue from less than $1 million a year to over $40 million a year. It is believed that Reed Hine was to have paid Dave Ramsey $450,000 per month, totaling more than $30 million over the span of the endorsement. They're also saying here that Ramsey knew or should have known that Reed Hine used fraud and unfair and deceptive trade practices when he began participating in what they call the scheme. Ramsey accepted payment from Reed Hine to make false statements to his listeners. Throughout his promotions, Ramsey assured his listeners that he vetted Reed Hine and promised them that the company was the only trustworthy method to get out of their timeshare contracts. I'm actually going to play here just a little clip from one of his YouTube videos from his radio show, kind of talking about that here.
Now, here's what you do. You call Timeshare Exit Team. Timeshare Exit Team.
Have. Like, my grandparents recommend me, to Timeshare.
That's who I recommend, and that's the only way I know for you to get out of this.
Okay.
Have you already done a deal with them?
Oh, well, they gave us a quote, and it was $8,500, and we couldn't afford it.
Okay. Now, the only one I've ever found that actually pulls this off is Timeshare Exit Team. And it can be expensive. But holding on to this stupid timeshare is going to be expensive, and getting foreclosed on is going to be expensive too. So that's the only way I know to get you out of it.
So they're also saying here that in exchange for the money paid by Reed Hine customers, that the only service that Timeshare Exit Team / Reed Hine performed was to tell the customers to stop paying on their timeshare, with the hope that it would eventually lead to foreclosure. And I also believe that they might have actually helped facilitate deedbacks through the timeshare developers' official deedback programs. A lot of the developers out there, like Marriott, like Vistana, Westgate, Diamond Resorts, they have official deedback programs. In most cases, you can deed back your timeshare for free, or even sometimes just for a fee. Might be $1,000, might only be $250, but it's certainly cheaper than the fees that they paid to sign up a Timeshare Exit Team. Another thing here they're mentioning is that Timeshare Exit Team, even though they might have helped facilitate these deedbacks, they didn't tell the customers that essentially they could do the same thing themselves for free. Now we're going to talk a little bit more about the allegations. I mean, if that wasn't enough, you have here that all defendants committed multiple unfair and deceptive trade practices. The Lampo Group and Dave Ramsey specifically committed the following unfair and deceptive trade practices, which harmed Reed Hine customers and which affected the public interest. And also that Dave Ramsey and the Lampo Group produced advertising that was deceptive because the advertising failed to disclose that the Lampo Group and Dave Ramsey received compensation for the advertising as required by the Federal Trade Commission's endorsement regulations. So there are a lot of regulations around that. When somebody of influence is providing endorsements or being sponsored by a company, it needs to be clear if there's a material connection with the brand, and that actually includes a financial relationship. Now we also have here that the defendants produced advertising that was deceptive, stating that Dave Ramsey endorses Reed Hine because he independently confirmed that Reed Hine delivers value to consumers. Now we do also have here a statement from Dave Ramsey with regards to that state of Washington Attorney General's lawsuit against Timeshare Exit Team. They wanted to depose Dave Ramsey and obtain a deposition, and he actually responded in a Tennessee Circuit Court declaration on August 27th, 2021, that he has no direct insight into Reed Hines' operations, representations to its customers, or any other aspect of its business. Again, others on my team are responsible for the details of the endorsement relationship, and I act based on their recommendations and advice. So if we actually kind of think back to that clip of the ad read I played for you earlier, well, it sounded a little more convincing than what he stated there. And now on to some remaining allegations. What they're saying here is that the defendants unjustly enriched themselves with this entire arrangement. They're saying that the plaintiffs conferred upon defendants an economic benefit by entering into contracts and making payments to Reed Hines. These payments followed to the defendants and allowed the defendants to continue engaging in their unlawful conduct. And the defendants here, they're actually specifically referring to Dave Ramsey and the Lampo Group. They're saying that essentially plaintiffs paid Reed Hines, and essentially a portion of that was then sent back to Dave Ramsey. And a few other things I noticed from this lawsuit, like I mentioned, $30 million is what they believe was actually paid to Dave Ramsey, but they believe Dave Ramsey actually drove $70 million of revenue from his listeners actually signing up for Reed Hines services. Now, of course, with any lawsuit, they're going to be looking for damages and a request for relief. So we have up here first fees. Those would be the fees that Reed Hines customers paid for the services. And then any fees paid by the plaintiffs to timeshare companies while they were waiting for Reed Hines to perform timeshare exit services. Then damages allowed under the Consumer Protection Act, attorney's fees, and any applicable interest on the judgment. So one other thing I just want to mention here is that it should be mentioned that in 2021, when Reed Hines was in that lawsuit with the Attorney General of the state of Washington, that Dave Ramsey on his show said that Timeshare Exit Team was no longer being endorsed on his show because they were being hammered by legal fees. Dave Ramsey actually only stopped promoting them and endorsing them on his show essentially because they couldn't afford to pay for the endorsement.
Basically, they have been hammered now by legal fees, and they can no longer, afford to be on the Dave Ramsey show to provide the service to get you people out of a timeshare.
So that kind of maybe just shows that essentially the endorsement was there because the money was there, but I'll let you be the judge, or really maybe we'll let the judge and or jury be the judge, right? Like I said early on, this lawsuit needs to still see its day in court, but I'll be sure to let you know kind of as we go along the status of this lawsuit and certainly its outcome, probably several years down the road. But definitely one thing you want to take from this video is that timeshare exit companies are probably not somebody you want to work with if you're trying to get out of your timeshare. And as Dave Ramsey says, the timeshare industry, it's scammy, it's scummy. Well, the same thing can definitely be said about the timeshare exit industry. And in fact, John Oliver on his show last week tonight with John Oliver did a video all about the timeshare industry, all about timeshare exit, and even had some things to say there about Dave Ramsey as well. I made a video about that, talking about it, my thoughts, my reaction. I'm going to put a link to it right up here, so check that out next. Thanks for watching, and remember, until next time, the best destination is always a timeshare.